Hey, what up, everybody? It's your boy Carson Fox with another edition of Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports. It's the post-game show, the recap show of West Virginia's unfortunate demise down in Norman, Oklahoma, 59-20. And the game dropped West Virginia's record to 6-4 overall, 4-3 in conference play. 8-2 for Oklahoma, they improved to 5-2 in conference play, and I'm feeling a little melancholy. I'm sure if you're a part of West Virginia Mountaineer Nation out there that you're feeling a little bit down. This was a really crossing roads point, it felt like, for the 2023 season, for it to be potentially something special, for West Virginia to continue to contend for an outside shot at the Big 12 championship game, especially after both Kansas and Oklahoma State lost yesterday to UCF and Texas Tech responsibly. So a lot of dominoes fell, just a couple important ones really, that fell for West Virginia to potentially capitalize, but it all depended upon a win down in Norman. And what I will say in a 59-20 loss, just overall, is this is the kind of game that, like, if you're playing PlayStation on NCAA 2014, it was a game in which everything, you're playing on Dynasty mode, so it's as hard as can be, the hardest difficulty that you can. You're playing a good opponent. It's not like you're playing a scrub. And absolutely everything goes right in incredible ways for your opponent. I mean, with like one-hand catches through traffic, as a defensive secondary, you can't stop any nickel and dime play down the field. They're breaking out of tackles left and right, and everything goes wrong for you. So it's one of those games that, like, man, you're in multiple times, you're hitting the pause menu, wanting to restart your PlayStation and play it over, just like reset everything. And that's what I mean to say is, if this game was played 10 times, I mean, you get a result like that, I think maybe like 20% of the time, maybe just one of, 2 times potentially. Then you get, West Virginia maybe winning. I would say Oklahoma would probably win 75-80% of the time out of like 10 tries, but you might get 2 in which West Virginia would win, and then there would be, I would think, 6 games or so in which are really, really close. And I think if you're looking at it in totality of this season, that's really what you wanted as a West Virginia fan. Even if you lose close on the road, at Oklahoma with their high-flying offense that's top 10 in the country. I know they came off 2 consecutive losses, but both of those were on the road to previously ranked opponents, who I don't know if West Virginia obviously lost to Oklahoma State. I don't know how they do against Kansas. Maybe if they're down to their third-string quarterback like they are now, things would be different. But just all in all to say that winning this game, the way that played out, given the way Oklahoma played on this night, and I'll get into that in just a second, it was going to be extremely difficult. The theme, I will say, for this game, and it kind of has been for over a decade, dozen years now, of contests between West Virginia and Oklahoma, is how does West Virginia handle pressure and Oklahoma's intimidation factor? And both of those things played out in this game. I mean, it's kind of a comprehensive product that Oklahoma deploys, especially when they're at Memorial Stadium, and you hear this kind of almost personified in those SEC chants that they had when they were way up in this game. They get flagged rightly. The defensive back, number 26, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but number 26 clearly interfering on West Virginia's wide receiver all the way down the field, and their fans kick and scream and cry that they're not getting their way, or in which Drake Stoops gets hit on a very legal tackle by Anthony Wilson, I will say. I mean, it was shoulder to shoulder. He just hit him square, hit him hard, hit him just. And, Oklahoma's guys are like wanting to fight West Virginia's guys because they think that, extracurricular or some tomfoolery was happening. Like, that's everything in a nutshell that you have to face, especially when you're on the road at Oklahoma. And I love this Bob Huggins lines once in a while. He's like, I've never played in a basketball arena where there's guards holding AK-47s at the sides of the corners of the court. So I don't understand what people mean when they say a hostile environment. So I always like when people say hostile environment, because I think of that phrase. It's not like we're playing this in a game in North Korea or it's a life and death kind of situations. But you get what I'm getting at is that's what Oklahoma is you got to win not everything on the field, but all of just like the extras that come with beating, and it's usually beating the officials because they're fans of 90,000 of them are going to whine and cry and want everything to go their way at the same time. And if you don't take your pounding, take your pounding quietly, then they're going to claim that you're classless and it's just so stupid. It's so stupid. So I digress. I don't want to do a recap of the game because when you're talking about 69 points here, I could go on for 5-6 minutes here to give you the play-by-play breakdown. So if you didn't tune into this game, go back and watch the highlights or whatever. But what I will give you is some inflection points. And I think it's these inflection points that ebbed and flowed with West Virginia's chances to make this a competitive game or potentially even win it. So first and foremost of the game itself, that I think was just like in a nutshell, you can't not convert on both of these opportunities and expect to win at Oklahoma. I'm going first quarter still. When the game was 14-7, West Virginia had capitalized on an Oklahoma's muff punt that was fumbled. I think it was Gavin Sawchuk was the punt returner at that point in time. Hit his hand, shoved into by a return blocker. Ends up West Virginia recovers inside Oklahoma's 30. You don't go anywhere on the drive to score 7 for 1 to tie the ball game back up at 14. And then Michael Hayes kicking a 48-yard field goal and absolutely booting it way left. Now, I don't think the hold was all the greatest by Grayson Malashevich. He didn't kick on the laces, mind me, but he did kind of kick on the side of the ball other than the opposite face, and he just shanked it way left. So one of the most clutch kickers in college football this year for your squad, who's been nearly automatic. Only missing one attempt for the year, and it was 58 or something like that, and you missed that. So you don't capitalize on points off turnovers at all, and your field goal kicker misses that field goal. So that was one. I think right before half, 2 minutes and 1 second left in the second quarter, down 31-7 at this point in time. West Virginia failing to convert with 3 cracks from the 1 yard line before the half. I think Garrett Green got it on that first run up the gut where he pushed right into the end zone line. I think he got it. I know that the referees went and reviewed it and called him a half yard short. I did not like the tush push on the second play call there. I think that's where you hammer it home with C.J. Donaldson. You try it on second. If you get to third or fourth down, by all means, give it a shot. But I think on second down even, so by losing that yard or so on the half and then 2 cracks with Donaldson on third and fourth down and he doesn't get it either time, you don't win when you don't capitalize on series like that. I thought it was awesome that West Virginia did cut it to 17 right before the half with that great touchdown catch by Cole Taylor. But then right out of the half, what do you know, that 60-yard catch and run by Drake Stoops, who tore you up on this game, making it 38-14 right back. Thankfully, I would say another inflection point, West Virginia does go on a long touchdown drive to rebut and scores, but then you fail the 2-point conversion, so it's still a 3-score game, 9:23 left in the third quarter, and at this point in time, you've already given up 38 points in just a little over, 20 minutes of gameplay. So you're not feeling really good about your defense. Now you're still down 3 scores with a lot of ground to cover. Green throws an interception at the Oklahoma 45-yard line on 3rd and 23, looking for Devin Carter, who it seemed like really gave up on the play after the defensive back deflected it. And then with a short field, Oklahoma goes down and scores to make it 45-20 with 4 minutes and 34 seconds in the third quarter, and that's when you really felt as if the game was kind of out of reach. West Virginia goes 5 plays and out, punts back to OU. They go 7 plays, big plays on the drive by Drake Stoops, Nick Anderson, Jaleel Farouk before Stoops' last touchdown, and that's when that unsportsmanlike hit against Anthony Wilson got called in the end zone. So just not good enough. And it was then, West Virginia goes 3 and out on its next series. At that point, way down. You're down 32. 4th and 3, and you punt it. Essentially, just, so I surrender, waving the white flag. That's when I turned it off. So it wasn't even a game that I end up watching the last. I see in the box score now, seeing Dylan Gabriel scoring a touchdown to make it 8. I don't think, what he got to go back to like Nick Florence in 2012 with Baylor for an opposing quarterback having 8 touchdowns against West Virginia, or maybe Florence only had 7. But a performance by the ages, better than Baker Mayfield, better than Kyler Murray, better than Jalen Hurts, like maybe the best performance an Oklahoma quarterback's ever had against West Virginia. So really tough pill to swallow. And unfortunately, where I kind of want to start my analysis and my opinions on this game was, unfortunately, Garrett Green just did not do West Virginia's team overall any favors in the first half. And I can think back to a few, and granted, I want to talk about the defense. I'm not gonna give them a free shake on this game, but it was at this point in time in the first half, just like we saw against UCF a few weeks ago, that you had to keep up with the Oklahoma onslaught offensively. So if you know they were going to score, you got to score back. You got to score right back. Now, what's weird, what I can't fathom is West Virginia, I don't think ever looked better than on this entire season than it did on that very first drive. Now, granted, I'm sure that whole entire series was scripted all week in practice multiple times, knew that West Virginia needed to score on its very first series as soon as they touched the ball. I loved it. That drive was insane. It was beautiful, beautifully thrown balls, and I just don't know what happened when, yes, granted, and this was one of my keys to 3 keys to victory was Gabriel and Sawchuk just ran all over West Virginia early in the first half, and that was what I was afraid of. That's what, unfortunately, UCF turned the switch early in their matchup a few weeks ago and wanting to throw all over West Virginia. Oklahoma said, no, let's run on them as much as we can, and then we'll throw on them later. And, we saw the result in it. But so, I was just totally impressed, but then completely dumbfounded of what happened to this offense between that first series and that second series. It couldn't have just been that false start by Doug Nestor that put you back into negative yardage. You're playing from second 11 instead of first and 6. It's because let's go to that series. The missed throw to Devin Carter on 3rd and 12 at West Virginia's 23. So you're punting from deep in your own territory. The next series, it was the very first play on WVU's next series from its own 25. Green misses a wide open E.J. Horton deep down the middle. Same series, no idea what he was doing on the 3rd down throw to Jaheim White. That's when the fumble recovery then happened on the punt, and then Green's decisions to run the ball just absolutely went nowhere. So then, Oklahoma keeps scoring. Just felt like the Penn State game, but worse. Deciding to go for it. This is where, I don't know, you can give 80%, 20% blame either way, either by the head coach for wanting to go for it this early in the game, down just 17-7 at West Virginia's 46-yard line on 4th and 2. But again, you'd given up two touchdowns to Oklahoma, who looked unstoppable offensively, and a field goal. So, and if we're always going to criticize, and I being one of the big criticizers, of Neil Brown being conservative to a fault and not wanting to go for it, wanting to opt for field goals instead of try for touchdowns. Like, I like the aggressiveness. So then when it comes with the play execution, I don't really necessarily like the play call. But Green misses Preston Fox on the little curl route, just a few yards. All he needed was 2 yards, so he just went 3, turned around, and Green misses him. Was broken up by Kobe McKenzie on the play. He did have an open Devin Carter with a little bit of touch on the throw, instead throwing it right to the left of Fox. McKenzie's right there, and it could have easily been an interception, but what's the difference at the end of the day? So, I mean, you look at the numbers. I don't know what he was from the first quarter and a half per se, but 10 of 27 for the night, just 154 yards passing, did have 2 touchdowns with an interception, 10 rushing attempts for just 24 yards on the day. I don't know if that was a season low. I didn't really look that up because I don't know if it's necessarily what do I need to talk about his rushing stats other than give you what he just had there, 2.4 yards per carry. Never going to get it done at West with Garrett Green at the quarterback position. So it was obviously the defense, but by the missed opportunities offensively by Garrett Green after that incredible first series that I was just I was just so confused. I was just what happened to Garrett Green in this contest? I know you ride or die. I said this in the pre-show. You ride or die with him. You live and die by what he can do offensively, and that was just unfortunately his worst performance of the season on the road in Norman. So, though, and this is where I'll get into the defense. You're not gonna. Not many defenses in college football this season can stop Oklahoma, that loaded of a team, at home when its offense was playing like that. Like I said, with Gabriel, I mean, you look at his totals, 23 of 36 for 423 yards, 5 touchdowns passing, and then rushing 11 carries for 50 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. So the other thing, and this is what I'll say about Oklahoma's offense to West Virginia's defense, is West Virginia's defense just couldn't get Gavin Sawchuk on the ground on first contact. It just seemed like he was just going nowhere. His legs were churning, but he was going nowhere behind his offensive lineman. And then you thought West Virginia had him down, but they really didn't. He'd scoot out of it, and boom, there he goes, into plus territory after getting a first down. So it was just like you wanted to just gouge your eyes out watching them. I said this in the preview show, I thought West Virginia's defense, the way that it performed against BYU the week prior, could go straight up toe-to-toe with this Oklahoma rushing attack, which may have been the weakest we've seen out of Oklahoma in years. I mean, I don't think Gavin Sawchuk, Tawi Walker, and Marcus Major are like some of the previous backs that they've had in history. I mean, going back to Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine and even Eric Gray last year. I know I'm missing some in between there, but some great backs in between. But you get what I'm saying is I thought West Virginia could go toe-to-toe with these guys and then just play with what they could do in the secondary. But clearly not. Clearly Jeff Lebby knew something, saw something on film that I didn't see. Or that they could see out of this West Virginia defense to completely exploit in this contest, but they did. And Gabriel was masterful with his fakes when he wasn't. How many times did you see, if you were watching the broadcast like me, that you thought the play went one way, only for the cameraman to be like, whoa, no, actually Gabriel has the ball, and there he goes. He's already in first down territory. So that's what I'm saying. It was Gabriel's legs, I felt like, in addition to not being able to get Gavin Sawchuk down on first contact, that was just giving this Oklahoma offense confidence. And by the time they started wearing the West Virginia defense down into the second quarter, that's when they started to go hammer West Virginia through the air. And granted, Beanie Bishop played his heart out, I felt like, in the first half. I mean, how many times did he run down Oklahoma wide receivers as they were going in for the home run hit for the touchdown, and he would bring a guy down inside the 10 and at least that's how West Virginia saved a touchdown instead of the field goal there, and I think it was the first or second quarter. It was all because of the efforts of Bishop. Now, he wasn't perfect in this contest, but I think he was the best of a secondary that completely got exposed, unfortunately. I mean, Aubrey Burks, for as much as I touted him after that performance against BYU and getting those national recognition by Pro Football Focus just got beat on a couple of times. Marcus Floyd, same difference. I mean, you name it. Gabriel did whatever he wanted, what he wanted whenever he wanted, and even had some bad overthrows. I remember one missing Stogner across the middle on kind of like a post route where he had the defenders beat, and Gabriel just airmailed it over top him. But I mean, he made Drake Stoops look like Wes Welker out there. 10 catches for 164 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, the big plays out of Nick Anderson, we talked about in the pregame show what he could do for you, just 4 catches, but for 119 yards. Best game of the year all by Austin Stogner at tight end, who, again, Gabriel missed him on a touchdown pass in the end zone. He just threw it way too hard behind or in front of Stogner trying to run out of bounds. 4 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. And Jaleel Farouk wasn't used all that mightily, but every time he touched the ball, he was making an impact. 30 receiving yards, 29 rushing yards on the day. And then let's flip it the other way, taking a look at Oklahoma's defense. Man, they just look completely different with Danny Stutzman in there. I guess that's what you get whenever you get your best player healthy for this contest, missing the last 2 or really game and a half. So he comes out there, he's a force to be reckoned with. 8 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and Oklahoma just looked fast. Just really looked fast. I know they got UCF for 13 tackles for loss, but look what they did to West Virginia, 8 tackles for loss. And how many times did you see, especially when West Virginia was going, east to west, so that would have been Wyatt Milam. Some guy would just bull rush on Wyatt Milam as hard as he possibly could. And so I think those ends just crashing, bull rushing in, forced Garrett Green to play from within the pocket, not use his ability to escape left or right. Green couldn't. I mean, he did have a few runs for positive yardage. You're just really impressive. But that's what it took. That's what's the kind of effort, and not only talent, but a luck in some respects that it would take. That if those ends were just going to crash as hard as they could in to conceal the pocket in tight. There's either one way to run, and it's running vertically. So could he make a man miss? Either Stutzman was there, or Kanik was there, or Kip. I forget his last name. Crap, that's going to bother me. But anyway, there were just so many guys for Oklahoma who were just in the perfect positions, and when Green just was not accurate enough throwing the ball, and then you had some drops. I can think of one. It was just hit him square in the hands on second. It was right before the interception. It was right before the interception on Devin Carter. This ball, perfectly thrown ball, hits E.J. Horton right in the hands. He tries to body it up against his chest, hits the ground. Next play, 3rd and long. You're trying to go deep, and it's intercepted. And it's just going back to my analogy at the beginning about PlayStation, you just want to start over. You just want to get a new slate because absolutely nothing is working for you. So I was incredibly impressed by this Oklahoma defense, inspired under Brent Venables to come out and put out a lights-out performance at home, and that they did. I think they're motivated to get a win against West Virginia after losing to them last year. Took it all out of them. Took no prisoners. Gabriel was masterful, and he just did what he wanted to do all game long, and he was insane. And I don't like him, but Drake Stoops was too. Just like I said, looking like Wes Welker out there. So when you look at the total yardage disparity between West Virginia and Oklahoma, 644 to 330, and especially West Virginia allowing 423 yards through the air, you can't help but feel dejected. You can't help but feel like this was a worse blowout loss, in my opinion, than Penn State was. Even despite how good, and a couple missed field goals Penn State had that could have easily turned into 7 points the other way, or that you got nothing. That Penn State ended up getting nothing out of it. So Oklahoma just capitalized, unlike Penn State did in Week 1. So when you look at it at the end, the final score, losing by 39, the game I look closest to is last year at Texas Tech, in which West Virginia lost 48-10. So did this game feel worse than that Texas Tech game? I kind of think so. given the strides that this team had made offensively and defensively, to go out there. And I think at this point, in year 5 of Neil Brown's tenure, and kind of just the way the fan base keeps, like a lot of people like me, just giving it time, giving it chances, looking for nitpicking for things here and there beyond the results, good and bad, is you want to see West Virginia be competitive in games in which the talent disparity is so vast. I'm telling you, given how much money that Oklahoma spent in the transfer portal, gazillions of dollars over these last 2 years to prepare themselves for life in the SEC, is that Oklahoma is deservedly, and that's why, like, if you follow me on Twitter, I put them back in the top 10 after that performance last night. I think they're a top 10 worthy team. I don't think they're a college football playoff worthy team, but I think that they have all of the pieces to be able to. They might not have the kind of defense of Georgia. I think if they played one of the top 4, top 5 teams in the nation, they'd get crushed. Don't get me wrong, but they're right in that second cut. Like, I think they'd play really well against Washington or Oregon, another matchup with Texas, Ole Miss, and I think like Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Georgia, crush them. Or let's just say at least 2 touchdowns. But then that next cut, that's where I think they are. So when that happens, that they're that good, playing as hot as they were on that night, well, I don't think West Virginia. As that day wore on yesterday, I just kept getting worse and worse of a feeling. I felt really good all week. After going to that BYU game, seeing how West Virginia is just, chugging along, up and up and up, and this is their moment to change the complexion of the program. Nope. Once again, fooled by a matchup against the Sooners in how they play. I mean, just West Virginia just catches them, it felt like, over this last decade at the absolute worst times for whatever reasons. Thankfully, a rainstorm really helped them out last year, being in Morgantown and Garrett Green not being game planned for. So, and then you only win on a walk-off field goal at the end. So, again, not being competitive against a team that is so much better than you are talent-wise. And I think also what West Virginia fans are looking for at this point, and this is where Penn State is as a program, but obviously hasn't taken that next step to be up there with the Michigans and the Ohio States, is beating all of the teams that you should. So in this case, in this season, it was Houston. And that's why I listened to one of these, the spaces with, I think it was the Mike Ostie and the Bearded Ear and some other contributors across Twitter earlier this week. And, the number one question that everyone kind of went round and round and round about, what do you feel about the state of the program and Neil Brown? And it's a very easy introductory question that if you're not talking about the game context, that you can talk about this whole totality of this program is, I think that's where West Virginia wants to be, is, and despite everything with Neil Brown and this and that, is win the games you should. So there's no excuse for losing that Houston contest, and that's a huge demerit, I feel like, against Neil Brown, despite his record at 6-4 already on the season. And then being competitive in games like a Penn State, like an Oklahoma, and even to a certain extent, Oklahoma State, given they've had your number and this, that, and the other thing. And West Virginia could have won that game. So we could be looking at a 10-2 season, I feel, or I guess at this point in the season, 8-2 type season, and you're feeling so much better if you won that Houston and Oklahoma State game. Even if you just won the Houston game at this point with 3 losses. Now you're staring down a 9-3 type season if you win out and win your bowl game. And only 19 times, I saw this research on Twitter from another Mountaineer fan today who came up with this, 19 times in West Virginia football's history has it gone and won 9 games in a season. So there's still a lot left to be had, but you got to go out there, you got to beat Cincinnati, you got to beat Baylor, and then you got to win a bowl game to get there. So that's why I'm hold off. I think we need to pause still just yet on Let's see how the rest of this season unfolds, because I think if West Virginia goes out there, we shouldn't necessarily overreact. Now, if the Houston game had come after this game, I think I would be in like a worse place. But given the, early October versus mid-November of playing these games, that feels different. I have more context to the season. So I think we need more context to this season. I think we need this Cincinnati game. I think we need this Baylor game to see what to grade out Neil Brown as a head coach, this state of the program, this, that, and the other thing, because there's still more to be had. I think you still got to go out there and you got to beat the teams that you should. You failed against Houston. You failed that. Huge demerit, like I said. And now getting blown out in the fashion in which West Virginia did against Oklahoma, huge demerit. But getting to 6 wins already, and there's still a lot on the table. But what I can conclude are a few things. I'm going to look at both sides of the ball. I think we have enough information, we have enough detail to talk about these two things as it pertains to 2024, because we're always looking forward, we're always looking ahead, looking at the bigger picture, this, that, and the other thing. I don't know if it needs to come in by way of a change in coaching, but just a new defensive philosophy for next season. I think we've seen it now for 3 seasons. I think that 2020 season we can finally conclude as an outlier, given the COVID circumstances and given how much talent West Virginia had on the defensive side of the ball. But new defensive philosophy. The bandit position, I just feel like, is a complete waste out there. Just dropping back into zone. Yeah, granted, West Virginia's had some really, you have Beanie Bishop, who has the most passes defensed of anyone in college football this season. 4 or 5 interceptions. Great play out of him. Great play out of Aubrey Burks. But you're just not playing good enough defense overall. And I know there's a lot of talent that'll come back next year at the linebacker position whenever it gets healthy, with Trey Lathan, Josiah Trotter, year 2 of Ben Cutter. Tyrick Austin Cave has been out pretty much the whole season. Jai Favre's done for the whole season. Like linebacker, you're down to your bare bones. And you've also had some injuries in the safety. Keyshawn Cobb, you never saw what Montre Miller could give you this year. So if West Virginia can go in the transfer portal this offseason and go get a guy you're going to get Montre Miller back, I think, because you didn't get him for all this year, so he has another year of eligibility. I would say if he gets a medical waiver, which he should, go out there and you got to find another Beanie Bishop or more, because you're going to lose Bishop, you're going to lose Malachi Ruffin. I have no faith and no trust in Andrew Wilson-Lamp, as you've known if you watch this program. So you're down to Jacoby Spells, who hasn't taken nearly as big of a second-year jump as I thought he would after the way he performed last year. And then true freshmen and redshirt freshmen who really haven't played at all this year. So, and then you're going to lose Marcus Floyd at the safety. You do get Keyshawn Cobb back, who missed pretty much all of the season to preserve his red shirt to play for next year. You will have Aubrey Burks back next year. You will have Anthony Wilson back, but then that second level worth of safeties. I think Lance Dixon's as good as gone if he's not already off the team. Raleigh Collins hasn't gotten very many opportunities. Same with Christian Stokes. So I don't know what to make of these young safeties. So I think it's restoring some depth there at the safety position with the corners. You'll be okay at linebacker, and then on the defensive line, I think you return everybody back, so who will be playing as seniors. But can you upgrade? Can you make some upgrades there? I just think the defensive philosophy just isn't working as a whole. Now they're up over 28 points per game allowed, they're at 28 points per game allowed. I think you needed to be around 27 for the season. Giving up 59 sure didn't help things. So I just think that the defensive scheme needs to be looked at by Jordan Leslie. If it might mean a new defensive coordinator or some different coaches or just different scheme. You got to do some things differently. I liked how much pressure that they brought in this contest against Dylan Gabriel, but just couldn't get to him enough at times. Just the times that you did dial up pressure, just you got to him some of the times, but when it mattered most, you didn't. And then when you weren't bringing pressure, they ran over you, they threw on you. So I'm on a really thin slope. I'm at I want to see really good performances out of this defense these next 2 weeks against Cincinnati, who can really run the ball with Emory Jones and Corey Kiner, who are right up there, top 10 in the country in rushing with you, despite their not so good record. But they'll have some momentum and confidence after beating Houston on Saturday, and then Baylor, who's just a bottom dweller at the basement of this conference. So I want to see what this defense does. And then offensively, and this is where this is going to be a little controversial, and I want to hear your comments, and I want to know how you feel, Mountaineer Nation, because this is a big question. This is $1 million, or might be a Neil Brown buyout $12.5 million question. Is it time to start, so I'll beg this question, not necessarily call for one thing or another. I got to ponder this over this week. Is it time to make a decision about starting Nicco Marchiol at quarterback next week? With these 2 games remaining against a 3-7, is it 3-7 Cincinnati, and then a 3-7 Baylor, and then see what he can do in a bowl game to potentially springboard you into 2024 with those wins under his belt, with 3 more years of eligibility to apply, whereas Garrett Green gives you just 1 more next year. Have we already seen the ceiling of Garrett Green and what he can do? Is he just around, a 55% passer, giving you those runs, but against better competition in, say, a Oklahoma or a Penn State? Like, he'll give you some things, but would you rather trade some of his rushing ability with a Jaheim White, with a C.J. Donaldson, and not terrible a rushing ability by Nicco Marchiol, but take Nicco Marchiol's passing ability and obviously the years of eligibility? I'm going to pitch that question out there. I want to know how Mountaineer Nation feels. You can catch me on Twitter as well, at Carson_Fox27. I'm looking at this 2024 schedule, and I also think it was a botch in 2021 into 2022 of how Neil Brown coached Garrett Green and the decisions that he made. Again, being 2-4 in 2021 after a bye week, losing big to Baylor, sticks with Jared Gegge, obviously gets the big wins against Iowa State and Texas, but you go to the Cactus Bowl and get obliterated, in which the offense is absolutely terrible, against Minnesota. So then Gegge leaves, you spend a king's ransom on JT Daniels and NIL money, and that's who you start, and really don't give the full reins over for Garrett Green. So again, he was behind the 8 ball, I felt like, from an experience game. I know he played, spots here and there, both as a sophomore, redshirt freshman, 2021, so second-year player, and then as a third-year player last year, playing in those last couple of games before he got hurt against Oklahoma State. But, this was Garrett Green's first real year as a fourth-year player. As a fifth-year player, what much more can he give you as a passer, and then just as like the complete quarterback? And I know that it's a what have you done for me lately, year-by-year basis, but again, the decisions that happen in the season of 2023, as we're now talking about a few years ago with 2021, affects the downstream play of 2023. So what you did in 21 and 22 has affected 2023. Can you make a decision here in 2023 that will positively impact you for 2024 and beyond? Because he has 1 more year, so 2025, is it Nicco Marchiol as your quarterback, or is it somebody different? I still think he is the best high school recruited quarterback that West Virginia's had since Geno Smith. So is it time? Or is he really going to sit a full another season behind Garrett Green next year? I know he's gotten in some spot starts here and there, most notably that TCU game, and then for most of the backyard brawl as well. So it's not like he hasn't played. But if you're Nicco Marchiol, are you signing up for being another, spot starter like that, or clipboard quarterback for Garrett Green for a whole season, especially when they're, neck and neck? I feel like. I don't know. But, then again, also peripherally, if Nicco Marchiol can't beat out Garrett Green, what does that say about his ability and what are his transfer portal prospects? If he went back to Arizona's on fire, they're a ranked team. Arizona State just ended up picking up a big win over UCLA last night. Have Jalen Rashada as true freshman. He can't go back to really the two Power 5 programs in his home state. So, I don't know. I think we're at a crossroads. I think it's a big decision point, and if West Virginia sticks with Garrett Green, that's fine. I understand. Let's play it out. I know this team's still working toward its goal of 8 wins for the season, which is including a bowl game appearance, is which I'd said from the very beginning. So West Virginia is not there yet. Has that opportunity, has the prospects to get there, and Neil Brown's very much still, it feels like, back on the hot seat. So wins are precious. So I know you want to try and build for the future, but at the same time, winning is everything, even if it's coming against a porous Cincinnati team and a porous Baylor team. But I don't know. That's why I like to do this show. That's why I like to pitch this question, because do you feel as if it's a right time to potentially go to Nicco Marchiol right now? At home against Cincinnati, where the crowd's going to be behind you, and if you end up winning that game, you go against a Baylor team who probably isn't playing for anything, probably playing some, scrubs to get them experience. So, you could win that game to get to 8 wins and then go into a bowl game and see what happens. So I don't know. I'm looking at this schedule next year. Wouldn't it be great if you had against Penn State Nicco Marchiol, who wasn't just coming in fresh as like a new starter for this season, or do you want it to be Garrett Green against Penn State next year again? At Pitt, in your home schedules, Baylor, UCF, Iowa State, Kansas, who may have Jalen Daniels back or may not. Kansas State will be working in a new quarterback. And on the road, again, an upstart Arizona program, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, who you've struggled against, but I know they'll be starting a new quarterback. Ollie Gordon will still be there. And then Texas Tech, who's obviously mad at you for beating them in Morgantown and knocking out Tyler Shuck, who wants to probably win at all costs for that contest. So the thing is, I guess I'll round out this show is if you're frustrated as a Mountaineer fan, is West Virginia needs to aspire to be a program in which it beats, just like Penn State, beats all of the teams that it should, and in this case beat a Maryland, beat an Iowa, beat all those lesser opponents in the Big Ten Conference that are the worst of the Power 5 of all 5 leagues this year, and then be competitive in the games in which like Ohio State and Michigan, for their example. And in West Virginia's case, the schedule is about to get a whole lot easier without Oklahoma, without Texas in this conference. So you're getting closer to being, again, the kings of, or contenders, I'll just say contenders, of a lesser conference in comparison to the SEC and Big Ten. You're playing teams you don't care about, so it's not necessarily as fun. Might get closer to bringing in those ACC schools that would then give you your optimal conference again. We got to see what happens in the future. You do get Penn State a rival. You do get Pitt next year a rival. So love that. And that's what's good for this program, is playing those rival schools, no matter how good or how bad they are. You need those rivalry contests. So then, again, who's your head coach too? Is this head coach the program that's going to keep you there winning those games that you should win in 2024 with the talent and the prospects of making moves in the transfer portal this upcoming off season? I don't know. More story to be told. So we'll talk about that later this week. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel. Like this video also so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube and across other social medias. And I'll be back next week to give you a preview for West Virginia and Cincinnati from Morgantown on Senior Day. Hail West Virginia. Let's go.